Welcome to Balanced Life with Debbie Carlin Boyle. Conversations connecting to a healthier you. The show that gives you all the latest and greatest health and wellness information to inspire you to live a life of balance and joy. Debbie Carlin Boyle is a health and nutrition coach, personal trainer, and fitness instructor who helps her clients live in balance with everything that feeds us, in addition to the food on our plate. Please welcome your host, Debbie Carlin Boyle.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to my show. Thanks, audience. Welcome to my show. This is Balanced Life with me, your host, Debbie Carlin Boyle. I am conversations that connect to a healthier you. I got a conversation for you today that I think is going to apply to a lot of people, at least I know, and beyond. So I'm excited to get started with that today. But before I do, I want to see if you want to become part of our conversation too. So to do that, there's a couple of ways. Number one, you could go where I'm streaming live right now on my Facebook page, Balanced Life by Debbie, and where you can see the show, you can make a comment, ask a question, and we'll get back to myself and my guest after the show. You can also give us a call. So the number here, write this down if you're listening, is 323-524-2599. That's area code 323-524-2599. So give us a call to ask a question. We welcome it. We are conversations. That's what we do. We integrate our audience as well. So the other thing that I want to let you know is that I'm a health, nutrition, and fitness coach, and I'm actively working during this, stay-at-home pandemic time. And this is a time where working with a health coach is, I think, needed more than ever before, because there are so many things going on that are affecting our lives that could possibly change how we're feeling, how our food intake is, how our sleep is, whether we're active enough, what our limitations are. And, stress, because we all have a lot of stress right now. And health coaches are very good about understanding the connection between all things that need to come together and be balanced so you are feeling good, looking good, and able to navigate this time and also keep your immune system strong. So to get a hold of me, you can go to my website, which is balancedlifebydebbie.com. And just go ahead and fill in where it says, say hi, and I will get right back to you. And I am giving free 1-hour sessions right now. So go ahead and take advantage of that. Now we're going to get down to the good stuff and what the show is about today. So there's a lot of mysteries and confusion of menopause. Some of the most asked questions that I get from clients, friends, and students seem to always be associated with menopause these days. And today, I'm excited to take a deep dive into the subject and get some solid answers on how to best navigate this inevitable event with my guest, Esther Blum. Esther is an integrative dietitian and high-performance coach. She currently maintains a private practice where she helps women permanently lose weight, eliminate the need for medication, lose stubborn belly fat, and reverse chronic illness. Esther is the best-selling author of Cave Women Don't Get Fat, Eat, Drink, and Be Gorgeous, Secrets of Gorgeous, and the Eat, Drink, and Be Gorgeous Project. And she has appeared on Dr. Oz, The Today Show, and Fox News Live, to name a few. So here we go. Let's just dig in. So will you please welcome my guest to the show, Esther Blum.
Thunderous round of applause, everybody.
They're here. You just can't see them, but they're here. Seriously. Hi, Esther.
Hi, Debbie.
How are you today?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you
Good.
for, you are on the East Coast, so we'll start off by saying that. And you are 3 hours ahead, so I know it's getting into dinner time and all kinds of things and the end of your day, so I appreciate you taking time out to be with me live here in the studio today.
Of course.
And I'm so excited because you do many things for people on their health journey, But one of the things that you do that we discussed when we first talked was you help women navigate perimenopause and menopause, which is, like I said, the top of the show, inevitable for most women. But you can do it well or maybe not so well. And you help people figure it out and do it well. But before we get into that, I want to hear a little bit about you and your background, where you grew up, where you went to school, what you studied, careers, and how you shifted to where you sit today.
Yeah, so I grew up in a beautiful town called Fairfield, Connecticut, which is on the shores of Connecticut, on the shores of Long Island Sound. And I had two older brothers, and my father was a dermatologist and my mom was a nurse. And my grandfather actually was an ears, nose, and throat physician, surgeon, and he trained his wife, his second wife, to be the anesthesiologist in his tonsillectomies. And so the two of them took my tonsils out. Now, the story gets even crazier because where they did it was in the first floor of their 4-story home in Flatbush, Brooklyn. My grandfather had, on the first floor, they had a waiting room, a consultation and treatment room. They had an operating room, and they had a 12-bed pediatric recovery room and 2 adult beds. So he not only worked on kids and did lots of tonsillectomies, but he also worked on some of Al Capone's guys when the henchmen,
wonderful,
get punched in. So he was really a gifted surgeon and doctor. He practiced medicine. He did surgery till he was 80 and practiced 4 days a week till he was 95 and a half.
So love it.
And he retired, and the last 10 years of his life painted full time. So when I decided I wanted to become a nutritionist, a dietitian, and get my degree in that, he was so irritated and annoyed and disappointed. And he was like, why are you not going to medical school? You're never going to be a success and you're never going to make any money. And I was like, oh yeah? Watch me. So I got to prove him wrong, and he got to see some of my success and see me on TV. And so I was glad I made him proud at the end of the day.
That's lovely. I mean, you really come from a lineage of doctors, of practitioners, which is, did you feel the pressure from an early age to get into the medical field in some way or shape or form like that?
Not at all. My dad was really chill, and he was like, look, your grandfather made me to go to medical school. If you don't want to, don't do it. But really, nutrition chose me, Debbie, because I stunk at physics. And, to get into med school, you need physics, but nutrition degree is pre-med minus the physics. So I was like, sign me up for that. So I went into it because I really liked the academic requirements. I didn't go into it to solve a health issue. That actually came much later. I just wanted a career that was science-based, that had a lot of flexibility, and that would enable me to eventually go into private practice and work for myself. So that was the long-term vision I had for myself early on.
And then what did you first start doing right out of school?
So I graduated college, and believe it or not, I did not get placed in a dietetic internship. So I went to work. I had interned at the WIC office. WIC is a food supplement program for lower income women, infants, and children. So there's nutrition education, there's breastfeeding classes. Well, you can imagine me teaching breastfeeding classes when I did not have a baby. I was also teaching to women of color who, of course, why would they identify or trust me? I was like not speaking their language. A lot of them were from Haiti or Honduras. So there was a real cultural gap and divide. But it was really trial by fire for me, and I learned a tremendous amount in that year. And then I decided to apply to graduate school programs. And again, I applied for my RD internship, and again, did not get placed. It's very difficult to get placed. So that's when I decided to go to graduate school. And so I applied to NYU and Columbia. I absolutely loved NYU, and they had great clinical internships. So then after my master's, I had done my clinical internship at Beth Israel Hospital on 16th and 1st. And the dietitian there was a dietitian running a holistic unit called Plain Tree, which was a really amazing unit. And she was like, you know what, on the DL, I'm leaving. I think you should interview and get my job. You're going to be perfect for it. And my boyfriend at the time said, don't put all your eggs in one Beth Israel basket. And I was like, oh no, I'm going for it. This job is mine.
Yeah.
And so I got the job. I worked in cardiology units at Beth Israel for almost 5 years. I did clinical rounds with doctors. I got to do in-services and teach the doctors. It was an amazing, amazing job. I still miss the people. I'm still in touch with a lot of the people I worked with to this day because I absolutely fell in love with everybody. But clinically, you know, I wasn't making a difference treating people. I didn't feel like I was making a difference treating people who are 85 and had a heart attack with 5 minutes to give them diet instruction, maybe 10 on a good day.
It's hard to be preventative when they're already kind of got to that point. Yeah. So that was frustrating for you, I bet.
So it was just limiting, and I did burn out emotionally because it was so stressful, and I worked, you know, weekends and holidays, and I wanted more autonomy. So my mom had a cocktail party, and I was talking to a psychotherapist there, and she said, what do you know about supplements? And during my master's degree, so I had a bachelor's and a master's degree, so I had 6 years in undergraduate. And I was so excited in grad school because I took a class called Vitamins and Minerals. And I was like, this is it. I'm going to learn how to use supplements and vitamins. And the professor kind of said, well, everything you need, you can get from food. You don't need any supplements. And I was like, oh my God, there goes, you know, 50 grand of my, of education, like finances down the tube. So I said, I really know nothing about supplements. And she said, you know what? I go to this amazing trainer who I'm still in touch with, Barbara Marquette. And she said, Barbara took like a functional nutrition course and, you know, has taught me so much about supplements and integrated them. And so I called Barbara and talked to her, did my due diligence. I spoke to 2 other people who went through the program. And my grandfather at the time had written me a check for $2,000 toward my student loans. And I called him up. I said, and of course, the course was literally like $19.99. I said, do you mind if I parlay this money into more education? He said, not at all. So I did that and started my functional medicine practice. I left the hospital. I worked for an integrative doctor 4 days a week and started my practice 1 day a week. So it was really, that to me was like, I felt so amazing and excited to bet.
That's a road.
Be embracing that.
Yeah, that's a road. And you have such a great background. You know, you really, you know, you worked your way and you've learned so much and came across people. And it was kind of like you didn't just jump right into the whole functional medicine thing. You weaved your way in, you learned a lot, and that's impressive. And
I had no choice because there's as of now, there's maybe 1 or 2 master's programs for functional nutrition. Like that are true clinical tracks. So you kind of I had to cobble it together as I went.
It's kind of sad because that's the way medicine should be. You would think there would be a lot more opportunities to go that route, you know?
Yeah, there should be that. And I think it's the wave of the future. I mean, you can't ignore it, you know? And I was so, you know, what frustrated me when I took the functional medicine course, I was like, shown all these research studies on nutrients and their effects in the body. And I said, I was given a binder this thick. I said, where were these studies in grad school? Where were these? Why were we not shown that? The research is there.
I guess it's the difference in ideology from the from the get-go. It's kind of like, let's put a Band-Aid on it once it's there, as opposed to let's be preventative and be, you know, more holistic and deal with what's the source and the whole lifestyle and body. You know, you have to go deeper than that. And that rather than, traditional medicine, though it wasn't that you had necessarily, is very, it's very medical based. It's very medicine based. It's very, wait until you're fine. I mean, it's typical when doctors don't spend that much time with you, whereas functional medicine doctors, health coaches, we spend the time, we listen, and that's how we're able to decipher what really is going on. Whereas doctors, you go to after the fact, and they throw something at you to feel better in the moment. And it doesn't get to the root, and that's the difference, I think.
And it's not their fault either.
No.
I mean, it's the insurance model of you can only spend this much time with a patient. So I don't fault the doctors at all. I mean, most doctors I know are quite caring and compassionate,
yes,
but are limited by, you know, the lack of education around nutrition taught in medical school. It's 1 to 4 days in all of medical school. And that model has not changed since my father went to medical school. So there's that. And also on the nutrition and dietetics side, you know, the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics, the food pyramid is heavily sponsored by big agriculture. And even when I get my I get different clinical journals, right? And so my journal from the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics is like still promoting soybean oil and soy products and really pro-inflammatory seed oils.
Right? Seed oils.
And,
oh my God.
And then my functional medicine journals are talking about omega-3s and benefiting dyslipidemias and type 2 diabetes and all, you know, so it's wild. I mean, there is just this giant chasm between the two, and they have not.
I know. And we could do a whole show on just that, on the industry and how they've kind of hijacked the health of our nation, you know, based on what sells, not on what's good for you. And that part of that hijack, as you said, has to do with the education that's out there. It's just really sad, really sad. We are going to take a quick break from one of my sponsors, and then we're going to get into our topic today, which is menopause and perimenopause, and what we can do to make things better for ourselves going through that, knowing it's coming. If you're in it, whatever, you're going to help us navigate that. So we'll be right back right after this message. I want to share with you a product I've been using for the last month, known as the most powerful antioxidant on earth. It's called My Vital C. My Vital C will not only help you feel healthier, but research shows it will aid in a longer life. And since using My Vital C, here are the things that I noticed: that I have no more restless sleep. It's so much easier now for me to fall asleep. And as you know, sleep is a great immune system booster. I'm also supporting my immune system with antiviral and antibacterial properties, and not to mention the high levels of antioxidants I'm receiving. So the bottom line here is I simply feel better. And now I'm recommending My Vital C to all my clients, my friends, and my family. To order this life-changing product, go to the link myvitalc.com/balanced life. Make sure you take advantage of the 25% discount on subscription. You can cancel at any time. Use the coupon Balanced Life for an additional $15 off your first order. Go to myvitalc.com/balanced life and check out this life-changing product right now. We're back. Okay. Thank you for your patience. So let's go right into it. I want to talk about menopause because I know that you have several programs on how you help people get their life in healthy order, should we say. But in terms of what women should expect as they're going through perimenopause and then eventually menopause and all the hormone loss that we go through, which in turn have some health issues addressed to them. You have a program called the 4-Step Menopause Reset Method. So can we talk about that a little bit, how it works and what it is? Like, what is menopause? Let's just start with that for somebody who's unsure what's happening.
In layman's terms, menopause is really backing out of adolescence. And you come out of it often the same way you go into it, except there's different ramifications, right? You're much younger when you go into adolescence and puberty, and getting your period versus leaving it causes far different changes and has different ramifications. So menopause, the true definition of menopause is not having a menstrual cycle for 12 months, minimum of 12 months. So if you, stop your cycle for 4 months and then you get it again month 5, that restarts the clock. So you're perimenopausal at that point, and you may find, during that time, as estrogen and progesterone levels begin to drop, you get bad PMS again, you may have bad cramps, your bleeding may be much heavier, you may get heavier surges as you go through that. So all of those contribute to menopause. You can also experience things like hot flashes, insomnia, because lower progesterone, we need progesterone to make GABA, which is a really nice neurotransmitter that's very calming and helps you fall and stay asleep. So you kind of get all these disruptions because your body has a chemical storm cooking inside, and your body's trying to balance itself out and say, hey, somebody throw me a bone here. This doesn't feel right, and I'm not feeling great. Some of my clients also experience a lot of brain fog. They put on weight. What was either, an hourglass shape now becomes more of like a Coke can, or you develop a spare tire or a muffin top that can sometimes turn into a cake top. So, and you can gain weight in your midsection where if you previously didn't carry your weight there necessarily. So all of these things happen during menopause. And the good news is, what I help women do the most is reestablish balance, clear out brain fog, sleep much better, put their hot flashes to rest. There's so many amazing remedies now and solutions to really help people get through it in a much more balanced and gentler way. And I do help women lose weight too, if not during menopause, then certainly after.
Right. And that puts them on a healthy track too, which is going to help them navigate any of the symptoms of menopause as well. I mean, it's kind of all interrelated, all connected. So let's go through, why don't we do this? Because we discussed this briefly before the show. Let's go through, if somebody comes to you and their period has stopped for a year and they have all the symptoms pretty much that you just described. So what would, and I'm going to be that someone just for purposes of clarity, let's say, for the show today. So I've come to you. Now, let me clarify this. I'm about to be 63 years old. I went through menopause not a long time ago, a few years ago, right before, when I was 59. So it was late. But the perimenopause was around for a while. I had all those symptoms that you discussed. Now, so I've been in menopause, for a long time, and I have a lot of the symptoms that go along with not, of hormone loss. So I have the hot flashes, I have the night sweats, I had the weight gain that I never had before, I had the sleepless nights, that's why the commercial I just did for My Vital C, that has helped. That's one thing that has helped me. So I'm coming to you. What's the first plan of attack? How would we go about trying to figure out how to get my hormones back and let me ask you up front, does everybody need to balance their hormones, or do you just go through and eventually all the symptoms go away?
I mean, some people sail through menopause, like it's nothing. The healthier you are going into menopause, that certainly increases your odds of getting through it more easily, but it's different for everyone. But the people who come to me are all experiencing symptoms. I don't see the people who feel great. Okay. Otherwise, they're not really coming to me.
Yeah.
So the first thing I do is test, okay? Because when you have quantitative numbers, then that becomes our North Star and the direction of treatment that you need to take. So I test blood, and I live in Connecticut now, but I work with people virtually all over the country and give them a list of tests that they should take to their doctor, and their doctor can write a script for Quest or any, blood draw lab. And then I also ship them what's called a Dutch test. And a Dutch test stands for Dried Urine Test for Comprehensive Hormones.
Okay.
And a Dutch test is great. What's that?
I haven't heard of that. So,
okay.
Yeah.
You're going to want to do a Dutch test, Debbie, because it tests 21 of your androgens. So and people say, well, why can't I just look at blood? Blood is great. You want to look at FSH and LH and just make sure, look at your levels. And you can look at blood tests of estrogen and estradiol and progesterone. and even testosterone and DHEA. But when you're testing urine, you really test all the metabolites of 7 different forms of estrogen, 7 testosterones, 7 progesterones. So I not only look at your production, but I look at your metabolic pathways. I look at your methylation pathways and see if you're detoxing your hormones properly, because if you're not methylating properly, then, it's going to be, if you go on HRT, you're going to feel worse potentially. So you have to have good methylation pathways in place. I also look at your DHEA, your DHEA sulfate, and I look at your morning and your metabolized cortisol, as well as the neurotransmitters in your brain. So this gives us a really nice window, right?
Yes.
I mean, you're like,
comprehensive.
Okay, you need testing. Very comprehensive. I don't mess around, man. I give you the gold.
Love it.
The gold
Yeah.
when we work together. And I'm like, let me just sink my hands in and unpack what the heck's going on. So this in turn drives our path, okay? I teach people how to eat real food and help calculate out their macros. How much protein, fat, and carbs do they need? Are they fairly sedentary, moderately active, or lifting weights like you, right? And then we calculate out their macros for their workout days versus their non-workout days. I have people keep food logs. I have an app that they use. It's pretty user-friendly. So people, get dialed into their eating pretty quickly. And then we also curate and customize a supplement protocol and or HRT recommendations that they then need to take to their doctor.
So HRT is bioidentical or not? And what's the difference between bioidentical and regular hormone replacement?
I just had this conversation with a doctor who was one of my mentors recently, and he was like, it's all bioidentical, really, whether it's derived from corn or whether it's derived from yam, your body processes it very similarly. So, bioidentical is usually more from a food source like yam or I think it's horse urine, whereas synthetic is, manufactured in a lab. But you can have a compounding lab manufacture your hormones if you feel more comfortable using bioidentical. I have seen just clinically in practice and in clinical research, I've done a lot of clinical research. I haven't seen a dramatic difference between the two in terms of outcomes, if that buys any of you peace of mind out there. And the cool thing is there's so many different delivery systems. So for example, one of my clients had really bad vaginal dryness, which is so uncomfortable, painful, irritating. And so we had her using intravaginal DHEA, which can really help with the dryness. And it did the 1-2 punch of helping her absorb some of her DHEA as well. We also did oral DHEA for her. We kind of did a combination. But you can give, hormone replacement therapy is not your mama's hormone replacement therapy now. I give estrogen usually in a patch form, and I give progesterone orally. Testosterone can be topically in a cream. So it really varies on the individual. Right. But if a woman has, thinning of the vaginal walls or dryness, then again, internal estrogen can be extremely helpful. And again, I take a person's history into account. If I look at their history of breast cancer, uterine, ovarian cancer, obviously not everyone's a candidate. And I have some clients that just absolutely don't want to do HRT. And so we'll do more herbal support or nutritional support there. But HRT, for the majority of my people, especially with hot flashes and insomnia, it goes away with the HRT. It resolves it so quickly and so effectively, within 1 to 3 months, they're feeling like new people. And, my client, I'm treating a friend of mine named Lisa, and she had been suffering with insomnia for 2 years. And I was like, dude, you're not even gonna believe how awesome this is. And within a week of taking her hormones, she's like, oh my God, I sleep through the night now. I feel so much better. So
makes so much sense. Yeah, it makes so much sense. It just kind of eludes me that nature has created. I mean, I understand. I understand going through puberty, right? I understand our bodies are physically changing, and men are able to produce sperm, and women her eggs are becoming viable, and I understand that whole process of life. I think somewhere along the way, women suffering from, going the opposite way as, when they go through perimenopause and menopause, something in nature is sort of amiss. And I don't know if we created it as a species over thousands of years, or if that's the way it's always been, and women have to kind of suffer through hormone loss that actually affects so many things in their body. It just, that part eludes me. I don't know. That was just me going off. But I don't know if we created that through an evolution standpoint because of our bad food and environment, and we've made it worse, or is that how it's always been for women? They're always going to have these because, quite frankly, I mean, hormone replacement therapy is new. It's not something that's been around hundreds of years. And so why do we suddenly need it? We need it now, and there's a reason for it. And that part frustrates me. It's like, why can't it just be a natural progression off into the sunset? Let us have our years of feeling good. We've done all the early work. I don't know. If you're taking care of yourself, I understand if you're not, everything else isn't in place and you're not taking care of yourself. But here we are, and we're all kind of going through it based on all, environment, lifestyle, non-exercise, poor food choices, alcohol, caffeine, those kind of things. So now we're going through it. So how do so individually you work, because we're all, of course, bio-individuals. So you individually work with everybody, like you said. And then what? So then they start, do they eventually wean themselves off of the hormones, or how does that work?
It depends on a woman. The short answer is yes. Usually HRT, the average period for someone to be on HRT is around 10 years. And if you're listening to this and you went through menopause 10 years ago, you are no longer a candidate for this. But I still see older people getting injections of growth hormone, from their anti-aging doctors, if they're good candidates, or, using testosterone. I think it's really case by case in that point. But I don't typically put people, in their 60s. I don't start them on HRT. I use it as a tool to help prevent bone loss, to help prevent cognitive decline or changes in cognition, which also changes with declining estrogen levels. And the progesterone orally is just incredible for sleep and GABA production as well. So usually people are able to transition off HRT after a while. But the biggest thing, Debbie, too, you raised such an amazing point, which is, why are we having to go on all this HRT? Like, this is relatively new, right? Stress is a huge part of it. Diet, obviously, obesity or being sedentary or a lack of muscle mass, all of those can contribute. But here you are, this radiantly healthy human, and you still have all the symptoms. Mm-hmm. So, and there are many women out there like that who are healthy and still are going through menopausal symptoms. So stress management and lifestyle becomes paramount. And this is a great time. I don't know about you, but like for me, the 40s became my decade of no, and really setting boundaries and really being very careful about responsibilities I took on, or what I want my schedule or life to look like, and setting really clear boundaries. I think that's very helpful. And just not putting too much on your plate, delegating, hiring help when you can afford to, all of those make a huge difference. Good sleep hygiene is another thing too. And like staying off technology at night, no news cycles or anything. Yeah. I shut my phone off at 8:00. Like, people know not to bother me, or that I just won't respond to them until the next morning.
I love that. Yeah, that blue light, which comes from all of our electronics. It comes from our TV, our phones, our computers. I mean, everything. Yeah, I like that rule of shutting down. I know you have a son, so that probably helps too within your household, right?
That helps too. And also my glasses have blue light blockers.
Blue blockers, yeah.
In them, so, which is great.
Smart. Yeah, that's really good, because that kind of stuff, that just aids, that just wipes our cortisol levels and
Totally.
goes up, you know.
Yes.
And that's our stress
Yes, yes.
hormone, and that's got to be controlled in order for everything else to be balanced. So, and which, you know, I would have to say my daughter was pregnant throughout the entire start of she found out in February she was pregnant, and subsequently had a baby in November. And I was worried about her the whole time. What if, you know, the what ifs. And so I noticed my sleep was being affected by that, and my health was being affected. I wasn't as active as I normally am because the gyms were shut down. And I am back up teaching again outdoors, but that took a few months for that to start regulating and coming back. And our gyms here in Southern California are still closed, even though we do have some reopening happening this week. And my daughter chose to have an at-home birth. So two things. One, I was relieved she wasn't going to be in a hospital with our numbers surging. But then I was worried that she was at home where anything could happen and you don't have the immediate medical attention. So I was worried about her. I was worried about the baby. So until that happened, I really was holding my breath. And I think that this has been quite not just for me, for many people. I just had an extra thing on my plate as having a pregnant daughter during the pandemic and not having the confidence to know that everything could be okay, you know. So so that could be affecting, even though I was having hot flashes and night sweats before that. This didn't help. Let's put it that way. It didn't help. Yeah. So I know my stress level's up, and I know that has to be controlled. So this, just knowing, well, you know what? We're going to take one more quick break, and then we're going to come back and talk about how to put this all in a pretty package so people can get help that I know so many women have asked me about that they need. So we'll be right back. One more break. I have been a wine enthusiast for many decades. But for a while, I had to stop drinking wine because of the sleepless nights and the headaches that I would have in the morning, even after only one glass. Does this sound familiar? So for the past 5 years, and since the start of my show, I've been looking for a healthy wine, and finally I found the answer I've been looking for: Dry Farm wines. Dry Farm wines are lab tested for purity, just 12.5% alcohol or less, 0.15 grams of sugar or less per glass, very low sulfites, and free of toxic additives. Dry Farm wines are dry farmed with healthy, biodiverse soil, and the taste, bright and vibrant due to no manipulation. I can't say enough about the amazing wines that I've tried. And now you too can drink wine and not worry about how it is negatively affecting your health. Just go to dryfarmwines.com/balanced life by Debbie, so you too can taste the love put into every bottle. Here's that audience again. Yay! Okay, so let's talk about what you alluded to, things like the extra body fat that comes on during perimenopause and menopause, and what people can do food-wise, and then maybe talk a little bit about the supplements that you find that work for hormone loss. So it's estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone that we mostly are concerned with in those levels that have dropped. Correct?
Correct. Yes, correct.
And then we see the symptoms that we talked about earlier. So what are some of the things that we can do besides HRT that can help get this back on track?
So first of all, I see people with two types of cortisol. I see like people with off the charts cortisol, especially first thing in the morning out of the gate. And those are my, espresso lovers, my adrenaline junkies, my people staying up till 2 a.m, getting all of their work done because they've been distance learning with their kids, or people who are very obese also have continuously high cortisol. It's really cyclical. The extra body fat produces cortisol, and the extra cortisol produces body fat. So the first thing I do is really support the adrenals. Okay. And that means either lowering the cortisol with wonderful herbs like valerian and passion flower and chamomile and ashwagandha, Those are what are called adaptogenic herbs, especially ashwagandha, which means it creates resiliency in your body and enables it to handle stress better. It's not telling you, "Ooh, you're going to feel so much better, go take on more." It's saying take stuff off your plate and go on some adaptogenic herbs to help lower your production of cortisol. Phosphatidylserine, vitamin C, those also lower cortisol, or they blunt cortisol production. From a lifestyle perspective, and I know everyone's been going out there buying Pelotons during the pandemic. They've been selling like hotcakes. You're going to invest in stock. That's the stock to invest in right now.
Yeah, that and Zoom, right?
That and Zoom, right? Okay. But, high intensity cardio for long durations can actually worsen your cortisol situation, because if your adrenals are tanking, and your adrenals, aside from your ovaries and uterus, your adrenals are also producing some small amounts of your hormones, DHEA, small amount of estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone. So those are your androgens. So you want to make sure from a lifestyle perspective that maybe you modify your workouts and you add in weights, because we need weights to support bone density. We need weights to build muscle and burn body fat. We need weights to prevent fractures and, help us with our balance and strength as we're older. And we need weights for cognitive benefits as well.
Absolutely.
So if you're a lover of cardio and you don't want to quit, shorten your classes, do a 20-minute Peloton, not a 45-minute Peloton, or do interval training, high intensity interval training. Okay.
So, but can you, again, using me as an example, I am a spin instructor. So I do use a Peloton type bike to teach. And, but I only do that 2 days a week. And then the other 4 days a week, or sometimes 5, is weight resistant training or yoga. So it's okay to balance it that way and still do that high intensity, or are you saying no high intensity if you're going through this time in your life at this stage?
Yeah, it really depends on what your cortisol curve looks like.
So I have to check it.
You should definitely check it. But a great way to lower cortisol too after like a high intensity workout is to just walk, because walking lowers your cortisol too.
Oh,
so does deep breathing and meditation, right? 10 minutes of deep breathing a day lowers cortisol. Mm-hmm. So we have so many tools at our disposal.
Yeah.
It's balance. Yeah. And if you love to spin, I don't want to take that away from you, but, and the fact that you're doing, a lot of weight training really, really helps. But just maybe you want to blunt it, Debbie, with just taking, 2 to 3 grams of vitamin C post-workout and getting a really high amount of fast acting carbs, like some white rice with maple syrup, or, some fruit with honey. Those, when you cause an insulin spike, and you may think, I don't want a lot of insulin, I don't want to gain weight. But when you spike up your insulin, you blunt your production of cortisol and you halt it in its tracks.
Oh, interesting.
So post-workout, I have my people eating, high glycemic carbs.
Oh, okay. That's interesting. And I kind of do the opposite. So I wait and I don't eat before I teach. I'm always teaching in the morning. And then I usually go for like some protein, maybe banana and almond butter, or a protein shake of some kind, maybe an egg and avocado. Always go for a good fat. I never thought about that. I'm always sort of on the endorphin high when I'm finished teaching, so I always think, I'm doing a good thing for my body. I didn't realize that I'm spiking my cortisol levels, and then I need to adjust them. So, because I mostly follow a paleo diet, and so I don't really eat rice, but I could do, or substitute something that would work for that instead.
Yeah, you could do white potatoes, that's fine, or just, again, have, a couple tablespoons of honey.
Okay.
That would be no problem. But it sounds to me also like you're pretty protein deficient if you're having 1 egg. The average woman who I see, again, needs at least 30 to 40 grams of protein at meal, and you sound like you're getting about 7 grams, maybe 14.
Well, that sometimes I have 2 eggs, or I'll do. Sometimes I'll do this if I have time. I usually have clients right after I teach, but if I have time, I'll do like 2 egg whites and 1 egg. Scramble that with some vegetables, and I'll even put in some chopped up chicken or turkey, whatever left in the fridge. Salmon. I'll put in, whatever. So it's just. But if I'm rushing out, I'll make a quick poached egg over some avocado or something, just because I feel like I need the protein right away.
Yes, you do.
Okay.
You do.
Good.
So yes, make sure you're getting a lot of protein, and I would really bump up your carbs post workout too.
Ooh, okay, good to know. Didn't know
then
that.
If your cortisol is low, okay, and you're like really dragging your wagon, then you want to get it up with some licorice, because licorice raises and sustains the half-life of cortisol. So some people, if your cortisol is really low, it can be just as hard to lose weight because you can't push yourself in your workouts. You just don't have enough gas in your tank. So I love licorice. I love using maca, not matcha. It's maca, which is another adaptogenic, adrenal supportive nutrient. And again, ashwagandha does wonders too. So there's many ways to skin a cat. You can also take oral DHEA. But again, I don't recommend it unless you've had your levels tested, but it's not a prescription, it's over the counter. So there's so many things that you can do. And obviously, you want to get your foundational nutrients, right? You want to make sure your vitamin D is good. And we know this because even just for times during COVID, clinical research shows 100,000 units of vitamin D and for 3 days kills off the flu and COVID. So I have people take about 10,000 units a day in the winter months for like 3-4 months and get your blood retested after that. Omega-3s, great anti-inflammatory, lots of vitamin C and zinc. Those are antiviral supplements and immune supporting, and a good multi or a B complex, because again, that really supports the adrenals and it supports neurotransmitter production, detoxes homocysteine, keeps your cardiac system healthy. So and again, there's so many ways you can go with this, but
doing this, what do you call that test Dutch test with you is the real way that you're going to find out what's lacking, how to measure this out, and to see how much you need of everything. Yeah. We are getting to the end of the show, but I want people to be able to get in touch with you. So like me, to work with you wherever they are, they can work with you. So how are all the ways they can reach you and find you?
All right. Well, Debbie, for your first 7 listeners who call, I actually opened up space in my calendar next week. You can book a 30-minute consultation with me. This is complimentary. You go to estherblum.com/call, as in CALL. So estherblum.com/call. And you can find me on Instagram at Gorgeous Esther. And I'm actually launching a 1-day retreat in March, which is it's a Luscious Life retreat, which is really going to enable you to jumpstart get out of your funk. We're going to go through a workout together. We're going to cook and eat a meal together. We're going to calculate your macros together. So you're going to leave with like a really solid life plan of eating and exercise and self-care. All these wonderful things.
Wait,
help support you.
Is that virtual though? Is it virtual? Oh, it's virtual.
It's virtual. So
okay.
You don't even need to put makeup on. All you need is a pair of workout pants, and you don't even need workout equipment to do it.
Okay.
So I'm going to teach people just some really foundational tools of self-care and just get them out of their funk, because so many people gained weight during COVID, and I want to help them just reverse that path and get their groove back.
Yes, that's what I was saying at the top of the show. It's such a different time, and working with somebody who can help you sort of ignite the fire again, as we've been pulled down, and we need to get back out again. And there's a lot of good things starting that we need to feel good about ourselves. So this retreat sounds good. When is it again? Say what the date is.
It is Saturday, March 13th. It's from 10 to 4 East Coast time. So it'll be a little early for the West Coasters, but I can also give you the link to put in your show notes. as well.
Yes. Well, we'll do that. So that will be on my YouTube channel, which is Balanced Life by Debbie YouTube, where this show will be up by the end of the week, in the next couple of days. And in the comments section, you guys can ask questions or make comments. And we'll also put all the information right there under the heading of the show that they need to access. And I have to thank you for today, because I know that you're helping a lot of people just by the knowledge that you don't have to go through this by yourself, number one, and you don't have to go through it, period. There are ways to find their help and hope, which is really, it's tough. It's tough. I spend a lot of time in locker rooms, or I did before the pandemic, and women, as they age, so many questions. Why? Why is this happening? Why do I feel this? How can I do this? And you really answered a lot of that for us. So I'm going to have you leave with some final words, thoughts, words of wisdom, anything that you want to just let out to let my audience know.
Okay. I'm thinking. I want to give you all 3 things that you can do when you leave this call that are simple, that are actionable. Number 1, of course, you're going to want to book a call with me. That's just a no-brainer. Okay. But number 2, I want you to really take stock in your use and consumption of social media. And I actually want you to delete the social media apps on your phone, except Facebook, because you want to watch this, or YouTube. But in all seriousness, at least on the weekends, delete your social media apps, break the habit. You will find your mind is clearer, your focus is far less fractured, and you get your creativity back and your vitality and your fun, and you'll be more present with your family and friends. Number 2, know that pleasure is the greatest nutrient of all. So when you're eating, sit down. Don't snort lines of chocolate chips off the counter or faceplant into a bag of potato chips. I want you to sit down. If you eat chocolate or potato chips right now, put them in a bowl. Actually measure them out. Measure out a tablespoon of chocolate chips. Put it in a small ramekin or like a little salt bowl. Eat them one at a time. Taste your food. I did this exercise over the weekend. I taught a master class and had people physically taste, York peppermint patties, for example. And they were like, you know what, these actually the chocolate doesn't really taste that good. Or potato chips, like, wow, they taste kind of rancid if you really let them sit in your mouth. So really slow down, taste your food, be more present. And that will also help you never overeat again. When you're really tasting your food, feeling if you're hungry or full, satisfied, all of that's really, really critical.
I'd have to agree with you with that. And those are some great tips to leave us with. You guys book that consultation. So go ahead and say your website one more time.
Sure. It's estherblum.com/call. And my website itself is estherblum.com. You can sign up. When you sign up, you will receive my Crush Your Cravings video series. It's a 3-part video series, and you get an ebook at the end. So in 3 days, you can crush your sugar cravings. So enter your name. It's totally complimentary, my gift to you. And I'm also, again, starting to send out emails about the retreat. The first one dropped today. So
love it.
It's all very timely.
I love it. I'm in there. All right. I want to thank you again so much, and really so valuable. And I want to thank you, my audience, for joining us today. Please go out and keep having those conversations that connect to a healthier you. And I'm going to see you in 2 weeks. Bye, everybody. Thank you. Thanks, Esther.
Thank you.